we've got Shaak. I think I'm pronouncing that right. Shaak, he, him up in New York wants to talk about the commonality of religion and the concept of God. Well, we like to talk about the concept of God here, Shaak. So you are on the Atheist Experience with Jim Barrows and Secularity. What you got? Oh, you're coming in just a little bit funky right there.
Good afternoon.
There we go.
Oh, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can now.
Yep, you're sounding a lot better. Whatever you did, if just smash your face up against that microphone. What you got for us?
Awesome. All right. Well, good to see you, Jim and SR. I've been watching your show for a very long time, and I grew up with Hinduism as a religion, and the first time that I kind of started to question my religion or the belief in God was back in 2018 when, unfortunately we had a loss of just a conceived child, and so that kind of questioned me at things on why would God allow that and why would that happen in my life? And so I've been kind of on the fence since then. But lately, I've been questioning a lot, reading through online and just understanding other religions to see there's a lot of commonality in the concept of God amongst the religions. Mm-hmm. You talk about Christianity and Judaism and Hinduism and Islam and then all the religions, the roots of them, when they originated, they had no communication with each other. Mm-hmm. So I'm just trying to wrap my head
no, that's not necessarily true. I mean, you've got the Great Silk Road that traded from Europe all the way into China. You had trade all over the Eurasian continent. The Americas were a little bit more isolated with not a lot of trade. But you had trade down into Africa as well. So Africa, Europe, the Middle East, Russia. There's all and stories, get told and retold through trade. Information gets passed through trade. So I wouldn't say they were isolated from each other. I would say that the stories got passed on from trade, international trade, all the way across. So I forget when the Great Silk Road got started, but that's been around for a really, really long time.
Oh, yeah.
It's not one trader going from one end to the other. It's a, trader goes to a place, trades his stuff, and that stuff gets traded on. You had Vikings who had Chinese coins in some of their hoards that we've found, and some other stuff from China. We know that they didn't go to China, or at least we're relatively confident they didn't go to China. There may have been one or two. But yeah, so I wouldn't say they're isolated at all. I would say that anywhere along that big stretch of land we call Europe, the Middle East, and then it's super easy to get down into Africa at that point. So yeah, trade spread the stories.
Yeah, what do you think about that, Shaak?
So I mean, just again, that's a good thought for sure. Not something that I really thought of there through the trade, but the language barriers. I guess that first point of contact, so to speak, with the God. There's some commonalities there as well. And the other thing that I kind of just contest myself with, and just when I'm questioning, but again, I'm not sure. There's a part of fear, for sure, on if I question what could be the consequences that I would need to face beyond what I've already faced, 70 years ago, and that made me question my faith. But there's also back then there was a lot of goodwill around at that time, so people got what they deserved, so to speak. Is it fair to say that right now, with the way the whole world is, the way the things are going, there's a lot of bad and evil out there? And so
let me jump in. Let me jump in for a second, Shaak. Hang on just a second for me, man. Let me jump in just real quick. Just because I feel like, broadly speaking, I kind of get where you're going, but I'm always really wary whenever we want to make those really broad statements about like a long time ago, like people were nicer or something. I'm not really sure that we have that data to begin with, right? I'm not positive we have a perfect accounting of the way that people were behaving, especially in a non-public manner, in a non-recorded manner. The further we go back in human history, the harder it is to find reliable information, right? But I will say, just kind of off the rip, just off the top of my head, I think the further we go back in human history, the more likely are we're to find, as some people describe it, that brutish state of nature. I think as we have gotten closer and closer to today, we have developed a lot of different things, a lot of different safeguards, a lot of different checks and balances and all those good things that have made us a little bit more, I guess, amicable in the broad sense. If you think about it, there's probably like hundreds, if not thousands of people you see on a daily basis that you've never murdered. That's pretty good. That's a pretty good number, Shaak. You're doing great. Most of us are in that camp, right? Real quick though, I just want to come back to the thing you were talking about earlier when it came to the commonalities that you see in these stories. I don't disagree that there's commonalities, but I think what is the common thread amongst them all is a lot simpler and a lot easier, which is it's all people telling stories. It's all humans that are coming up with these things. And because we're all people, we all come up with similar kinds of stories. But I know I shouted a bunch at you there, Shaak. So what do you got for us?
Yeah, I mean, I'm a very analytical guy. I like to be to go by data and not be driven by emotions. And so when I say that, when I look back and see the stories, it's kind of similar to, you're sitting in Texas, I'm sitting in New York. You say, I saw a blue tiger, right? And I say, I saw a blue tiger in New York. And you say, you saw a blue tiger in Texas. And we both are not talking to each other at all. There's no connection, nothing. The likelihood of there being a blue tiger is highly likely, wouldn't you say?
Is it?
Compared to,
is it?
saying,
I mean, how do we?
But so again, you're saying there's no communication between New York and Texas. And I would say, again, you're missing the fact that people trade. You're missing the fact that people wander around. All this stuff that happens. It's really hard to find societies that are in isolation. Australia would definitely be one. Same with New Zealand, although they were in isolation together. You could say Japan's a little bit isolated. The Americas, North and South, were definitely isolated from Europe, and so you see different things. But wherever you have trade, you're going to get stories to spread, and you just can't really ignore that. The other thing you can't ignore is that we're all human, and so there's certain things that we're going to want to have to at least feel like we have some sort of control over. War and pestilence and drought, weather, all these things we want to have control over. And so if you see similarities in gods, it's probably because fundamentally we're all still human and have been for, 10,000 years, 100,000 years, however long Homo sapiens have been around. And you can't discount any of that when you're looking at, oh, look, China has a god of war and the Romans have a god of war. War is a common thing. And if you want to win, you want some way to influence it. Coming up with a god is as good a way as any. Same thing with rain gods and fertility gods. And then you also have the storytelling happening along trade routes. So I would say it's very difficult to find societies that are isolated. And even when you do, if you look at their gods and being the same, I don't think they really are. Australia and Japan, I think, are more spirit. Same with at least the Northern American Indian tribes, I think, are more spirit-oriented than they are God-oriented. But they all control the same types of things because we're human beings and we want to have more control over our lives than we think we do for that kind of stuff. So when you say that two societies are isolated, they have the same gods, okay, you need to go a little bit farther than that. You need to figure out how they develop those things and then look at that. But even so, even if two societies are isolated and they come up with the same God, you haven't proven that God actually exists. And that's the key thing, is you then need to go that extra step and go, okay, so why do these two different societies propose the same God? And are they actually the same God? Even if we assume that your proposition is true, that two isolated peoples came up with the same thing, you then need to go prove that it exists. You can't say, well, they came up with the same thing, therefore it exists. That doesn't make any sense. That's just basically an argument from popularity. And then that question, the question with any question of an argument from popularity is, how many people do I need to get to believe that I have $1 million in the bank for that to be true?
What do you think, Shaak?
Does that make sense?
Yeah. Yeah, no, I got some thinking to do there for sure. That makes sense. I was just thinking isolated from, in a way that it can be a coincidence with everyone having a concept of God and there being a lot of similarities there. But what you just said there, Jim, it makes sense. I gotta put more thought into it. But at the same time, I kind of feel a little bit. I wouldn't say fear or scare, but I feel like a little bit of a hesitancy in doing so.
Sure.
To mainly, understand that, this belief in God could have consequences, but the belief in God could not have any negative consequences. There's always positive to have.
Hang on right there. Hang on right there, Shaak. Hang on right there. I know we've got some more cool stuff probably, but hang on right there, because I think that's a really, really good thing, So that is often termed as something called Pascal's wager. This guy, really, really smart mathematician, by the way, super, super influential in a lot of things. But he sat down one day and he did out this whole super cool math problem, put some logic to it, was like, hey, look, believing in God, honestly, at the end of the day, like, if you're wrong, no big deal. Like, but you got to be right. Because if you aren't, here's the thing. Look, the way that he runs that equation is incorrect, because he's not calculating all of the other things that come into play. So for instance, sure, he's not calculating all the different types of gods and all the different types of heavens and hells, but he's also not calculating all of the things that you as a believer are giving up or purposefully doing when you wouldn't do so if you didn't believe in that. For instance, a grandmother who's 87 years old, right, with barely any money in her bank account, only gives all of that money away to a church and goes destitute and broke and homeless because she believes in that God. Now, you can't say that, hey, if you just believe in the God, like, you're not risking anything. Yes, you are. You are absolutely not only giving up on things, right? There are many, many people who have lived their whole lives as believers, and on their deathbeds stop believing and turn around and go, damn, I would have done so many things differently if I didn't believe in this God. So sure, I guess technically, if it's real, there's like this heaven thing. Sure, that's a big nice cake and a present with a bow on it. But you are risking things. You are losing things. You are giving things up and potentially putting yourself at risk of extreme harm simply by believing in the God. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, my just origin of my questioning itself came from just having seen an unborn, right? Just not having a chance at life itself made me question on, okay, there could be things that I might have done, my wife might have done, but, what did that unborn child do to not get through if there was a God, right? And so that kind of made me question that as a binary point on, if there is a God, then, and he's all powerful and all knowing, why would he let something like this happen? He or she, I'm sorry, I'm not trying to.
No, you're good. You're good. We understand where you're coming from.
He or she would let that happen.
Yeah.
And if there is no God, then it's just science. It's just, it just happened, right? The things that didn't work out, and just happened. So which is a little bit more comforting, I must say, versus saying there is a God, but then why did the God let that happen? So, but I'm kind of stuck in between those two, right? And trying to, kind of find a safe pathway to the acceptance of there not being a God, right? And moving on.
Well, I mean, you just look at Occam's razor. What has done more to increase or to decrease the pregnancy risks? Certainly not religion, right? But science has. Science has reduced the risk. Have they reduced the risk to zero? No, they haven't. Is that even possible? We don't know. But 100 years ago, it was very different. 200 years ago, the farther back in time you go, the pregnancy risk goes up. That's why people had large families, was so that at least one child would survive to carry on the family name. And so we can look at infant mortality rates, we can look at human lifespan, we can look at all this stuff and go, it wasn't religion, because we've had a religion for 2,000 years, but it was definitely science. When science gets better every year, but it still has not created a zero risk world when it comes to our health. So, you look at it that way. Science has done more. It's not perfect, hasn't done everything. And tomorrow they're going to learn something new. And it'll make our lives better. And that'll happen, I won't say every day, but, at least once a month, something will come along to help out with it, in understanding medicine. And the biggest opponent to science research right now is religion, hands down. Doesn't matter which religion you are. If the gods exist, then you should be praying to the gods for healing, and that doesn't work. So where are you, right? I mean, it just makes more sense to go, I mean, bad things happen to good people because the world is governed somewhat semi-randomly, but because there is no God directing it. You didn't do anything. Your wife didn't do anything. That's just one of those things that happens. And having gods around makes it worse, not better. Makes it harder to understand, not easier. And makes it less likely that, if you decide to try again, that the same thing will happen, because the science will get better, we'll understand more.
What do you think, Shaak?
Yeah, and then in a way that kind of debunks my earlier statement that because overall the goodwill and the morality in humans, we have seen just with the modernization of things and and the more communications amongst humans across, there's and of course economical turmoil has driven people a little bit away from their core morality. And so if previously ancient times there were much better, higher level of morality, and now there isn't at that level. And so, like to my point that I say that maybe the consequences are faced more now than we have seen in the past. But then to your counterpoint that you just made, in regards to the science advancement in medical, that actually debunks my own statement. So I appreciate you kind of debunking my own statement, because I think with that logic, that we are seeing less death in kids and pregnant women and in people overall with diseases. And if God wanted that to happen either way, it would have still happened either way, irrespective of the advancement in the science and medical.
Yeah. If you're,
I would say even your statement that we were more moral in the past than we are today, I would say even that's wrong. Because in the past, we believed that slavery was okay. In the past, we believed that debtors' prisons were a good idea. We believed that in all kinds of things that we just know aren't true anymore or aren't moral anymore. And we're becoming more empathetic, not less in most cases. I would say that, somehow or other we got it as politics. Anyway, I would just say that for the most part, We are more moral today than we were 100 years ago or 200 years ago. Just getting rid of slavery, just recognizing the horrors of war. Countries used to go to war because their leaders wanted more land or or thought they had a claim to land they may or may not have. And rather than fight that claim out in the courts, they went to war over it. We have less war today than we did 100 years ago, 500 years ago, or 1,000 years ago. So I would say that our morals continue to improve as we get to understand more and more about, the effects of things. So I'm not sure that even the case, I'm not sure you can make the case we're more moral 100 years ago than we are today.
Mm-hmm. Well, Shaak, I think we had a good little back and forth. Yeah, hopefully we answered some stuff for you. Yeah, give us a call back in the future if you got any other questions, or if you go back, you rewatch this and you go like, you guys missed something. So we always love that, man. But thank you so much, and we're gonna drop you, and we're gonna go on to some other calls.